The wall is one of the most misunderstood unlocks in the tower tower defense. You unlock it too early and it feels useless, you unlock it at the right time, and it has the potential to be one of the strongest consistency tools in the early game. This guide will hopefully explain exactly what the wall does, and more importantly, when you should and shouldn't unlock it. My goal for this guide is effectively to just show you guys everything you need to know about the wall in the tower tower defense. And with that, let's dive in. What's up, guys? My name is Spartan, and just like we said in the little intro there, we are going to be doing a guide on the wall in the tower tower defense. So one of the most commonly asked questions that I actually get on this channel is basically, when should I unlock the wall? And one last thing before we get started here, keep in mind, if you want to skip to a specific section of the video, we will have timestamps down in the description below, and you should be able to also kind of see them on the screen, so feel free to skip around to whatever section best suits you. I will say, probably would be a good idea to go ahead and watch this entire video through if this is your first time watching it. But yeah, with that, let's go ahead and dive in. So what exactly is the wall? The wall is a defensive mechanic that sits in front of your tower, and it basically acts as an additional layer of protection against enemies. Unlike your tower's base HP, the wall is designed to absorb damage first, buying you basically time to deal damage, scale your run, and survive in your tiers. The wall is something that you basically will need across all stages of the game, all the way from the later stages of the early game to the far late game. And how exactly does the wall work? Enemies must first attack the wall and basically break your wall by dealing damage to it before they can actually do damage to your tower directly. The wall has its own separate health pool, which you can see right here on the screen. And again, it is separate from your base tower's HP. Once it is destroyed, enemies can freely damage your tower until the wall is rebuilt. And the wall synergizes heavily with defensive scaling, regen mechanics, and damage mitigation strategies. So it is definitely really good for EHP, but it also does have its applications later on for glass cannon as well, which we'll talk about later. Basically, for the early game, when people are mostly running an EHP style build, or even kind of a more hybrid focused build, the wall will act as sort of your primary survivability source, utilizing regen and basically just keeping your tower alive for as long as humanly possible. Once you get to the stage of glass cannon, if you choose to go that route, what ends up happening is basically you start kind of looking at the wall as effectively being like an energy shield. So instead of 3 energy shields at max level, you basically have 4. That's sort of a meme, but also not really. So we just covered what the wall is and how it works. Let's go ahead and dive into the wall lab upgrades, because the wall labs are very important to get right. This can make or break your wall, and like you definitely just want to pay attention here. But first and foremost, we're just going to do a brief little overview and kind of just dive into each individual stat. Within the wall labs, the wall has several dedicated lab upgrades that basically enhance its effectiveness. These labs are unlocked passively through milestones, and I'll give you guys a breakdown of what that looks like here in a second. So the first lab that we're actually going to touch on here is the Wall Health Lab. What this lab basically does is it increases the maximum HP of the wall itself. This is a core scaling stat for the wall, and higher wall health directly correlates to how long enemies are stalled before being able to actually break your wall and kill your tower. This is a really good lab. It does scale based off of your base HP lab, so keep that in mind. All of these labs that we're going to touch on basically scale off of either the health regen lab or the health lab, either one. And the second lab that we're going to touch on, and this is also super important for the wall, is the wall regen lab, which is right here. The wall regen lab basically allows the wall to regenerate health over time utilizing your base health regen. You can see what it says here on the screen. The wall regenerates health based on a percentage of your health regen. Again, this can come from the base health regen lab, as well as any cards or anything else that you have that basically gives you health regen. Wall regen directly correlates with that. Wall regen is a truly critical part, because there will be many times where your wall is just getting beaten down and you finally end up killing the enemies, and you want to have enough wall regen to basically start building back up your wall. The next lab that we're going to talk about is actually going to be the Wall Rebuild Lab, which is right here. This lab is also really important, especially later on in the game when you get to the stage of Glass Cannon. Wall Rebuild basically just improves how quickly the wall comes back after it gets destroyed. And yeah, it just reduces the downtime that your tower is exposed before the wall is back up. This is a very important lab, but When you first unlock the wall, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, this is not a high priority lab, so just keep that in mind. Next on the list is actually going to be wall thorns. Wall thorns are also a very, very important lab. It basically just increases the amount of thorns that pretty much your wall is able to issue out. So it's a percentage that is based on your actual workshop thorns, which the workshop thorns are these thorns right here. So I have 107% basically. There's a really nice chart that I believe is in our Discord server in the useful links that sort of shows how the wall thorns lab correlates with different thorn damage percentages. So I'll try to find that and throw it up on the screen for you guys so that you can see, but just know that wall thorns are super, super important, especially if you're running a more EHP focused build. The next lab on the list is going to be the Wall Invincibility Lab. This lab is pretty quick. It has 10 levels, and basically it allows the wall to become invincible for a brief amount of time after it gets rebuilt. So basically, as soon as it gets rebuilt, you'll have a little bit of invulnerability where no damage is taken to the wall. This is really good. It allows your basically wall regen to go ahead and start building up the wall health back again. And yeah, it's a really good thing, especially when you get to the later stages of the game and you're running more of like a glass cannon focused build. Wall invincibility really is pretty important. And the last lab for the wall is actually going to be the Wall Fortification Lab. This lab is also super, super, super good. You can see what it says here. It says the wall fortifies health above its maximum value using the wall regen lab. So the way that I always kind of tell people that you can think about the wall fortification lab is it functions very similarly to how the like max recovery and recovery amount work. The recovery package health. You can see I have my base health right here. I have my recovery package health here that is significantly higher than my base health. The wall fortification is basically exactly the same. It is basically extra health for your wall specifically. And if you have a good amount of the wall regen, it will continuously try to regen that up and basically just give you a little bit more of a gap before your wall inevitably dies. So now that we've covered basically what each of those labs are and do, let's talk about when you actually are able to unlock all of those labs. I'm currently reading this from the wiki, and I will try to have this article linked in the description so that you can go and find it for yourself and read and kind of just keep track of the different levels and stuff. But basically it says the wall health and wall rebuild are unlocked in tier 8 wave 10, so pretty early on. Wall regen and wall thorns are unlocked later on in tier 10 wave 70. Wall invincibility is unlocked on tier 12 wave 10, and wall fortification is unlocked at tier 14 wave 60. So those are all of the milestones for the wall. And again, you can find the link to the wiki article that I'm reading right now down in the description below if you'd like to see this for yourself. So now let's go ahead and actually talk about the probably most commonly asked question that I've received on my YouTube channel, and that is, when should you actually unlock the wall? This is probably the most common and most important question surrounding the wall in general, but I will say it has changed a little bit. So the whole mindset around unlocking the wall is effectively you want to make sure that you have enough econ coming in per day where you can fund 4 of these primary labs. You want to fund the wall health lab, the wall regen lab, the wall thorns lab, and the wall fortification. The wall rebuild and invincibility, these can quite frankly just wait. But the 4 main ones that you'll want to get a head start on are wall health, wall regen, wall thorns, and wall fortification. And you can see the cost for these is quite a lot. It's very, very expensive. So traditionally, players would be advised to basically wait to unlock the wall until they're earning a minimum of 500 billion coins per day. And the reason's pretty simple. Like we just touched on, the wall is expensive to support. And also it requires multiple lab upgrades to really feel impactful. It also does require these lab upgrades to basically do anything, to be effective and actually do stuff and help you. Unlocking the wall too early and not actually working on these labs because you don't have enough coins, it will be detrimental to your tower. Even more so if you're running an Orb Devo style build. If you're running Orb Devo and you unlock the wall with no levels in any of your stuff, what's going to end up happening is basically enemies are going to begin hoarding around your tower, and they're just going to be hitting your tower, and you're running Orb Devo, so you don't have the damage to actually deal with them. And because you don't have the Wall Thorns lab done, your base thorns are not doing anything. So what's going to end up happening is called shotgunning. The enemies are going to build up heat every single time that an enemy attacks your tower. It basically beefs up the damage with each subsequent hit. So that's why the wall thorns are so critical, because you want to actually damage those enemies and hopefully kill them before they break your wall. Otherwise, they have all of that heat charged up, and then your wall is going to break like mine just did, and then they're basically just going to destroy your tower. Like I said, that is the conventional wisdom, but I will say it is a little bit different nowadays. You guys can see here, this is my Spartan Junior account, and I actually do already have the wall equipped. But when I first unlocked the wall, I was not making 500 billion coins per day. I was making roughly half of that, and so far, knock on wood, Spartan Junior has been totally fine. So I would say in order to basically be as safe as humanly possible, you want to wait to unlock the wall until you're making at least 250 billion coins per day. The reason being, if you have properly developed your EHP stats, both in the workshop and also importantly in the labs, working on your defensive labs, you can get by with having the wall unlocked way sooner. So you can see my base health regen and health lab are both 35-ish. I think I unlocked the wall with both of these at level 35, and that was totally fine to begin working on this other research. You can see my wall health lab is basically 28. That is fantastic. My wall regen is currently level 8, and my wall thorns is also currently level 8. Wall fortification is the big kicker, and that is why people will generally say you want to wait to unlock the wall until you're making 500 billion per day. But it is not technically necessary. You can unlock the wall a little bit earlier. You'll just have to kind of be strategic with it and be aware that you're not going to be able to fund some of these labs all at the same time. You may have to do like one at a time, basically. And the other reason that I wanted to kind of just drop that minimum requirement has to do with a specific module. Last year, we had a new module released in the game, which is called Sharp Fortitude. This module directly works with the wall. It increases the wall's health and regen by, at even epic level, times 1.25, which is super good. It also gives you extra damage from the wall thorns with each subsequent hit. So every time an enemy hits you, basically the extra damage that they take is increased by 1%, which is really good from the wall. So keep that in mind. That's from the wall thorns. So they get an extra 1% wall thorns per subsequent hit. So you can get by without having a whole bunch of development so long as you have the Sharp Fortitude module. It's really good. Like I said, one of the most important things in terms of when to actually unlock the wall is making sure that you sort of set up yourself in a good enough spot. So what that looks like again is getting your workshop EHP stats in a decent enough spot where you can basically actually survive and get value from it. But more importantly, making sure that you're strategic with your base health and health regen labs, making sure to get these probably at a bare minimum to like level 30, but probably closer to like 35 or 40 would be ideal. But if you do all of that, you can absolutely get by with the wall being unlocked at 250 billion coins. It just can be done. And it's even simpler if you do have the Sharp Fortitude module. And that's actually going to segue us right into the strategy behind unlocking the wall. So if I were brand new, didn't really know what I was doing, what I would do a few weeks before thinking about unlocking the wall, I would first, like we just discussed, assess my workshop, make sure that I have enough levels in my workshop stats. I think if you had like 3,000 levels in health and 3,000 in health regen, that probably would be an okay baseline, but obviously the higher you want to do it, the better. My base levels for health and health regen are currently 4,000. So that's been, like I said, just fine. Additionally, you want to make sure that you are putting a big emphasis on your defensive research. So your defense percent, your health regen lab, and your health lab. These three labs in particular will get you prepared for unlocking the wall. When you do think that you're finally at the point of unlocking the wall, while you've been doing sort of the stuff during the previous month, building up your econ, looking at your battle history to see how many coins that you're making per run, that is when you can determine, okay, is it time? Are we ready? And also making sure that you basically have all of the necessary milestones, including the tier 14 wave 60 for wall fortification. Once you have basically done all of that, and you feel that you're ready for the wall, it is time to hit that unlock button. Once you do that, there are a few different options that you can do. If you are running a more Devo-oriented build, such as Standard Orb Devo, what I personally did on my main account was basically the following. I hit unlock on the wall, went straight to my labs, and I started 4 of these labs. I started Wall Health, Wall Regen, Wall Thorns, and Wall Fortification. I started all 4 of those labs, and then I did a workshop respec. So I respec'd my workshop back to my Orb Devo without wall, and I basically just let those labs go. If you do it that way, you likely will need to make closer to the 500 billion coins per day that we kind of discussed. But if you're running a more Blender-focused build, kind of like I am, or you have the Sharp Fortitude module, then I would say you can go ahead and just unlock the wall. You don't need to respec out of the wall. I'm not doing it on Spartan Jr., so you can unlock the wall. You can begin the labs that you can, and the order that I did these labs in was I started with Wall Health, Wall Regen, and Wall Thorns until I got it looking exactly like this. Once I got that, I took all of these out, and I put in Wall Fortification, and I'm currently saving up for another level of Wall Fortification. So I'm going to try to get my Fortification up a little bit because, again, that is bonus health that you definitely need. And after that, I'm going to go back to basically working on Wall Regen and Wall Thorns until these are at a good enough spot where I feel confident that I can push to the higher tiers. For reference, here are my wall labs on my main Spartan account. So you can see I went ahead and maxed wall health out. That one was easy and very inexpensive. Got it done pretty quickly. And then I got my wall regen to 150% and my wall thorns to 12%. And then my wall fortification up to 500%. What this setup allowed me to do was this setup effectively was the bare minimum that I needed to be able to farm all the way up to tier 12 with EHP farming, which is basically for me exactly what I wanted to do. Because since I started playing this game, I've been very enthusiastic about the glass cannon playstyle. I really wanted to figure out how to get to glass cannon. So part of what I was looking into was basically what are the minimums that I need to get all of my EHP stuff to effectively be able to farm all the way to tier 12 and start glass cannon in tier 13 and above. And this worked very good for me. But not only this, also factor in my base health and regen lab. Like my Spartan Jr. currently has higher health and health regen labs. So just keep that in mind. You don't need to go super crazy with all of this stuff. You don't need to max any of this out unless you just want to. But if you do really like the EHP playstyle and you want to try to extend that into the later tiers, then you're definitely going to want to go higher on a lot of these labs. In terms of what I personally wanted to do with the intent of going to glass cannon in the future, this is kind of the minimum that basically allowed me to get past tier 12 and begin farming tier 13 as glass cannon. And really quickly, guys, this is Spartan from a day in the future after recording this, and I just realized that I did not touch on something that's very, very important, which is the perks. So when you are basically using the wall, whenever you first unlock it, there are a few perks that you may think, oh, I should not take this, but you actually should. And I wanted to talk about that really quickly. So in terms of that, there are basically 2 perks that are definitely really good once you do have the wall that you ordinarily would not take if you did not have the wall and you were just using like Wormhole Redirector or something like that. And those are the Tower Health Regen but Tower Max Health trade-off and the Lifesteal but Knockback trade-off. Both of these are very, very good once you do have the wall unlocked. The Lifesteal but Knockback trade-off basically turns your Blender run into sort of a Devo run, and it's really good once you get the wall unlocked. Likewise, the Tower Health Regen but Max Health trade-off is basically the primary perk for keeping your wall up and making sure that it basically is strong enough to survive. So both of these are super, super good when you first unlock the wall. Obviously, I have the Lifesteal Knockback one banned because I'm farming at Glass Cannon. I'm doing a totally different build, so ignore what I have here, but just know that both of these are really good once you do get the wall unlocked. In terms of the standard perks, the main one that you want to focus on early is basically the Health Regen perk. This one is super, super important for, obviously, like I mentioned, maintaining the wall. Keeping the wall regenning all of its health back, it's really, really important. But anyway, guys, sorry about that quick note, and back to the video. Really quickly, let's just kind of summarize what we've discussed today. So we talked about what the wall is and sort of how it actually functions, how it works. We also went through all of the different labs and addressed when you unlock each of those labs. And then we dove into the age-old question of when should you unlock the wall. Then after that, we not only talked about when you should unlock it, but sort of different strategies that you can implement when unlocking it. Ultimately, it kind of comes down to, do you want to respec or do you not want to respec? And I respect on my main tower, but I did not respec on Spartan Jr., my baby account. And I can say, honestly, I think if I had done it differently on my main account, I probably would have just not respec'd. But again, back then things were a little bit different because we didn't have the Sharp Fortitude module, so you had to do things a little bit differently. The only last stuff I can think of that we can talk about here is the actual workshop stats for the wall. Once you unlock the wall, you get access to the wall health here, which has 1800 levels, and the wall rebuild, which has 300 levels. I'm basically at the point, even on Spartan Jr., where I am able to max all of these out during the run with free upgrades. But obviously, if you want to beef up your wall a little bit with the workshop, it is very expensive early on. Again, the longer term goal is to just max this out in general. But early on, when you first unlock the wall, you're probably going to get more out of putting into your base health and health regen stats versus putting into wall rebuild and wall health. At least that's kind of what I'm discovering with Spartan Jr. Additionally, you do have enhancements for the wall as well. Later on, you get access to the wall health enhancements. These, again, just buff up the maximum health of the wall as a percentage of the tower health. So again, it goes hand to hand with the base health. But yeah, guys, that is basically going to conclude the contents of this video guide. But a couple little housekeeping notes, and then we'll get this video wrapped up. First and foremost, we have a Discord server with 3,600 people in it. If you're not already in the Discord server, what are you doing? Get in here. We're having a good time. There's lots of tower resources. There's lots of really good people who love this game as much as I do. And quite frankly, if you're not in the server, you're missing out. So click the link down in the description below, join the Discord, and come say hi. Don't be a stranger. Secondly, if you want to support me and my content creation, there's a few different ways you can do so. First and foremost, you can use my content creator code, which you can see at the bottom left of all of my videos. My content creator code is code 300. Using this creator code in the Tower web store or in-game app basically directly supports me at no extra cost to you. Thank you guys so much for all of the love and support. I really do appreciate it. The second way that you guys can support me is actually through getting YouTube memberships, where I host a giveaway once a month for the YouTube members only. This month, we're giving away 4 event boosts to my YouTube members. So the odds of getting something are a lot higher than if I were to do like a mass everybody giveaway. Secondly, we have a new series that I started for the YouTube members called Tour Your Tower, where I do account reviews for the YouTube members. So if you want to look into the YouTube memberships, feel free to hit the join button and you can look into that. And yeah, that's going to wrap it up. That's all that we got for today. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you stuck around this long, you are awesome. I really do appreciate you. And if you ever see somebody ask a question about, hey, what do I do with the wall? Maybe just send them this video. That's my goal. I want this to be something that you guys can send to people that need it. And I want this to ultimately just be a helpful resource for the tower community. And yeah, additionally, subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're getting very close to 8,000 subscribers. And also consider throwing a like on the video and dropping a comment down below. It really does help me out a lot with the YouTube algorithm, and I really, really appreciate it. But anyway, guys, that's going to be a wrap for today's video, but thank you so much for watching, and like always, I will see you guys later.